No matter how much your tastes have evolved from the time you were eating school lunches, Velveeta probably has a special place in your list of guilty pleasures. Despite its unnatural color and questionable texture, there's no denying that magic happens when you melt it. Here's a look at the untold truth of Velveeta. The ultimate leftover. Velveeta wasn't so much discovered as it was invented, and even stranger is the fact that it's actually the second cheese invented by Swiss immigrant Emil Frey. In 1889, Frey was tasked by the Monroe Cheese Company with creating a domestic alternative to the imported cheese called Bismarck, and he came up with a wildly popular spreadable cheese called Liederkranz. In 1918, the company went back to him and asked him to solve a new problem. The company had a lot of Swiss cheese they couldn't sell because the cheese wheels were damaged, and they didn't just want to throw the leftovers in the trash. So they challenged Frey to come up with a product that used these cheese scraps. After some experimentation, he came up with a product with such a velvety texture that they named it Velveeta. Frankenstein's cheese wheel. So how did Frey invent Velveeta? Well, the secret is in some weird cheese-based science. Usually when you melt cheese, the milk proteins in it called caseins don't mix with water, so they separate into an oily mess. But Frey had read the research of some Swiss cheese gurus who had success adding sodium citrate to the cheese to keep that from happening. So he added in some whey and went all Dr. Frankenstein, engineering what became Velveeta. Kraft actually describes the genesis of Velveeta as reversing the process that made cheese in the first place, then stopping at a point before it breaks down completely. Superfood? During the 1930s, the U.S. was caught in the grips of the Great Depression. With the average family food budget around $9 a week and millions subsisting on even less, Americans turned to cost-cutting measures. Milk was expensive, for instance, while Velveeta was not. And since by 1931 the American Medical Association was hyping Velveeta as a superfood filled with nutritional goodness, the manufactured cheese's popularity soared as families searched for cost-effective dietary solutions. Rutgers University even did a study confirming the AMA's belief that Velveeta included everything needed for firm flesh. Of course, nutritional knowledge has changed over the years, and nowadays a 1-pound brick of Velveeta looks positively terrifying. Each block contains 16 servings, and each serving has 80 calories, 6 grams of fat including 4 grams of saturated fat, 3 grams of carbs including 2 grams from sugars, and a whopping 410 milligrams of sodium. And with all that, you're only getting 15% of your daily recommended dose of calcium, making Velveeta a distinctly guilty pleasure. Do not try this at home. By the 1940s, Velveeta was a national staple, especially once milk and cheddar cheese began being rationed during World War II. Kraft decided to help out America's homemakers by publishing a bunch of recipes involving Velveeta. The results were mixed at best, as in weird foods randomly mixed with Velveeta, like a Hawaiian-inspired platter that involved bread, pineapple, peanut butter, Velveeta, and a maraschino cherry?
I can't believe I ate that whole thing.
That seems downright normal compared to items like the Velveeta jelly omelet or the Velveeta strata casserole, which is basically bread and Velveeta baked with eggs, milk, and more jelly. Maybe just stick to nachos next time. All the president's cheese. One person who loved Kraft's crazy Velveeta recipes was President Lyndon B. Johnson. During his time in the White House in the 1960s, Johnson frequently hosted down-home-style Texas barbecues, complete with Velveeta queso dip.
When you add liquid gold Velveeta to Rotel, tomatoes, and zesty chilies, you get a queso so good, it'll blow them away.
In 1976, his widow Lady Bird Johnson contributed the presidential recipe to a San Antonio cookbook, and in 2005, the Black Tie and Boots inaugural ball, which celebrated fellow Texan George W. Bush's election to a second term, published a guide to Texas-style hospitality that included a suggestion of ordering 300 pounds of Velveeta. Now that's a party. Velveeta intolerant. It's not easy being lactose intolerant. Since dairy is right out, that means cheese is too. But Velveeta isn't technically cheese, so that should be acceptable, right? Actually, it turns out the opposite is true. There are some cheeses that are generally more acceptable for people with lactose intolerance, such as Camembert and Munster, which contain less than 2% lactose. Velveeta, on the other hand, contains a whopping 9.3% lactose, making it the worst cheese you can have if you're lactose intolerant. The New Depression. Even though modern health guides indicate Velveeta is far from the healthy superfood they believed back in the Depression, sales haven't dropped. In fact, they've soared in recent years, leading to the Great Cheesepocalypse of 2014, when Velveeta was suddenly in short supply around the country. Between 2013 and 2014 alone, sales jumped an incredible 23.7%. The reason? Unfortunately, it's for the same reason Velveeta became popular in the first place, as Kraft revealed that most of the sales are coming from discount outlets where increasingly impoverished families are scrounging for cheaper food. At least the next depression will be smothered in velvety melted yumminess. Thanks for watching! Click the mashed icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus, check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too!